Lots of love, lots of love. I want to ask you about your beginnings. What was your first project that you auditioned for and why?
Oh, wow. I got professionally acting. I got very lucky, and I booked a show before Teen Wolf called 12 Miles the Bad Road. It was this little HBO show. So we did our 6 episodes, and we were done with our first season, and we got canceled.
Oh.
And they didn't air any of the entire season. I think for more behind the scenes, like business reasons.
All right.
There was a changing in the executives of who was running HBO at the time. So it was more political of why we didn't air, I believe. So when I booked Teen Wolf about 10 months later, I wasn't even sure if that would ever air either.
And the movie Bring It On, the one that was on the DVD, when did it appear?
That was in between the first show and Teen Wolf. Yeah, that I worked on that. Yeah.
And what drove you to being an actor? Because you said it yourself yesterday that it was tough for you because of the place you were living in. There are so many projects going on over there. So what drove you to pursue this dream?
Yeah, I'm from Texas, and there was not a big industry there. But I love storytelling, and I cannot write to save my life. And so I thought I did plays as a kid, art and plays, and I also I had a coach that I started working with at 16, an acting class that I went to, that he seemed to think you should do this professionally, and I thought it would be something I would potentially like. So I also love medicine and science, though, and so I decided to go to school in California and and see how it went. So yeah, I did whatever I did short films as a teenager. I worked on a lot of short films and several community plays. Basically moved to California for college or university, and then my second year in university I started acting and got the show like a month into acting. Yeah.
The reason is why I'm asking, because all the stories that we hear about casting, like you appear there and there are like 30 girls looking like you because it's all for the character.
Uh-huh.
Is it like that? Is it for real or?
Sometimes. I mean, I think auditioning is a weird beast in itself. It's its own thing compared to actually being on set. But once you've been on set and have a good amount of experience on set, auditions, you don't really look at anybody else. I mean, it's about either they want you or they don't, and if they don't, that's okay. Yeah.
But they tell you in the end, like, sorry, we'll not call you, or it's always like, very good, thank you, we'll call you.
Every day is different, every audition is different, and so there's really not any formula. You know, sometimes you hear back, sometimes you don't hear back, and 2 months later they book you. I mean, you just don't know. It's just a lot. You just have to audition, and sometimes it's hard to, once you audition, you forget about it. And that's easier said than done. You don't always forget about every audition. But for the most part, I try to.
And after such a show as Teen Wolf, that you're a little bit close to being an actor of supernatural genre, is it hard to switch to another thing? Or every proposition that you receive is from those kinds of series of...
I mean, I get all kinds of auditions. It's just a matter of what you book or not. I mean, I'm an auditioning actor, so I think I have a bigger reach in the supernatural genre. I think it's safe to say at this point, because most of my recent jobs have been in the supernatural genre. But for me, at this point, it's about if I like the story, if I like the character, then I go out for it.
But you never know when you're booking a show or a series, how will your character develop? Will it die in the first season?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the contract you sign, sometimes I'll make it X amount of seasons. But no, you really don't know. No, I mean, I think if you like the world, you have to, and you like the writers, and you like who you're working with, you have to. There has to be an immense amount of trust, right? You know, to sign up and hope you made the right decision versus going with another job.
Okay. Do we have any questions to our star? Where is my friend with microphone? Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm not exactly sure if this is something that would be good for the filming community, but were there ever moments on the set of Teen Wolf that you were actually frightened because of something that was in the show? Is it like, I don't know, the Dread Doctors or something?
What's the first part?
Were there ever moments where you actually frightened on the show because of something?
I see. Was I ever frightened? I mean, it's all make-believe, so.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm not sure if it's a proper question, but maybe it was something.
So I think it's much scarier when you guys watch it back.
Obviously.
But no, not really. No, I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's lots of work in the post-production to make it so dark and scary and wet. Right?
I mean, it's definitely dark and scary and wet when you're filming it, but maybe not so much the scary part. It's acting. You know, you have to believe what you're doing. But was I truly terrified as like myself? No.
No, because when she said about those red eyes, I remember that they look really horrible. Like, for example, I get scared when I look at them.
I don't know. Like when you film as Lydia, like yeah, you're scared, but when you cut, you're not like, oh, and you're like, you know, no.
All right.
Some of the prosthetics were amazing, though. I mean, it was more like, wow, that's amazing. Like you're more analyzing it.
Hi. So yesterday you told us that you originally went to casting for Allison, and you failed. But you got Lydia, and first of all, what was your reaction to Lydia? Because you didn't actually...
Mogę prosić mikrofon troszkę wyżej, bo nie słyszę.
Okay.
Yeah, what is my reaction to being hired as Lydia?
Yeah.
It's quite funny because when it's called a breakdown of what the character looks like, and they had described her as a model that was just off the runways of Milan, and from Milan, and I do not look like an Italian model. So I was not thinking that Lydia would be somebody that I would get to play. So when they called me back, I was a little confused. And yes, the audition room, they looked nothing like me. And so I was like, oh, this is even stupid why I'm here. But I'll go do my thing and I'll have my take on Lydia. And I played her a bit more sassy and sort of like a know-it-all, but and kind of a bit more comical than, I didn't take myself so seriously as the actor. And it was just sort of in my own world as Lydia, and they liked that take on it. So I guess that's why it worked out. So initially, Lydia looked like somebody completely different. And then I was the wild card, as we call it. And so that's how I got hired.
But also my one other question is on how many castings you were before Lydia that you failed on? Was it like so many or just a few?
I think it was the whole process because I already had met everybody through auditioning for Allison. So all in all, it was maybe like 5 auditions. 5, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
And when they told you have to wear again cheerleader uniform, you were glad, or you like, no, come on, I just did it in the movie.
Wait, which uniform?
Cheerleader uniform.
Oh, I never wore a cheerleader uniform as Lydia.
No?
No.
The blue one? That?
I had like a blue skirt, but I was never a cheerleader.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
How about you?
Good.
My question is, Teen Wolf would be continued, and if it had been trust, how would you have imaged that 7th season?
How would I have done it
Again?
differently?
How would have you imaged that 7th season?
What would I have done
Yeah.
for the 7th season? I think we probably would have. I don't know, like Lydia was graduating high school, so I think she might have taken a break from school, taken a gap year, and probably did something with Styles and running the, you know, I call it the detective agency of Beacon Hills. So yeah, maybe that. I don't know. What would you want to happen?
And I have one small request. Can you say hi to my friend in Ukraine? Her name is Irina.
Rina?
Yeah, Irina.
Irina.
Yeah.
Hi, Irina.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to ask you, how do you picture life of Lydia and Styles after the show has ended? Are they still in Beacon Hills helping protect it, or maybe they left, they're doing something else?
I think if there's a 7th season, they're probably still in Beacon Hills. It's too expensive of a set to build elsewhere, but just for a season. But if it's in general, I think they probably moved away and joined the bigger battle that you see them walking, you know, kind of metaphorically towards at the end. I think that's probably where she would be with Styles, and they probably would have their own business of some sort, trying to fight crime, you know,
Thank you.
amongst the supernatural world.
I thought that nobody's leaving this town. Sure.
Well, I always joke, why don't they just move? Just move towns. Get out of Beacon Hills.
I think it's impossible. Everything is drawn over there. Everybody's coming over there.
Yeah. So yeah, they're here to fight.
I was thinking it's like in the Truman Show, you know, when wherever you go, you will come back around.
Exactly. Maybe Beacon Hills is like a big Truman Show.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. What do you really think about Jackson and Lydia, because he was a really bad guy?
He was a bad guy. I mean, I think when Lydia looks back, you know, on the show, I think not all girls, but I know that I went through this in high school where you don't like a good guy. And in your young, naive mind, at least for me, when I was in high school, I had a high school boyfriend that was terrible, horrible. And like I missed him when we broke up. I mean, my mother needs some talking to raise that daughter. But yeah, I mean, I would hope my daughter would never feel that way. But I think, at least in my generation growing up, you sometimes dated a bad guy and you missed that bad guy, even though you shouldn't. So I think that's probably what Lydia went through. And then to come full circle, I think Lydia kind of figured it out along the way, like, oh, that's why he had a lot of issues, is he was hiding something and not being his true self. And that made him very moody and not very nice. And so, you know, I think she had love for him as like her first boyfriend. But when he comes back to Beacon Hill, she's like, you know, she remembers the good times, and you idolize the good times in a breakup. And then when she realizes that's why he was so mean, and she does have that love for him, so she's excited to see him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you're telling about the villain, what's your favorite villain from all the seasons of Teen Wolf?
My favorite villain, I have two. Void Styles. Yeah. And then I also absolutely love Peter. Peter's the best. I love Peter. It's really hard to be as funny and as scary as Peter is in the same sentence at the same time. And Ian Bohen does that very well.
Yeah, I was happy that he came back to the last one, with the one where everybody forgets people. And we see him in this train station, singing around, and like that, he's, again, funny, as you said, and scary sometimes.
Yeah, Ian's been a great villain, and I think he's a bit underappreciated. I mean, he's a fantastic villain. He's amazing. He's probably my favorite, but he's probably my favorite villain, but for the storyline, to take a character that's so loved and so goofy and make him evil, like Styles, like to play that, you know, that was an amazing idea of Jeff's. And I don't know whose idea it was, whoever's idea it was. I mean, I'm assuming it was Jeff's. To take that character and play him both ways, that's awesome. I loved it.
Next question.
How you handle it with time zone changes?
What kind of changes?
Time zone changes.
The time zone change.
Yes.
Usually, because I've worked so many nights on Teen Wolf, because if it's at night on Teen Wolf, especially in the first like 3 seasons, we were actually outside. So if it's nighttime, I mean, it's probably like 3, 4 a.m. that you're seeing all of these night episodes being shot at. So when I would come to Europe, I was already on y'all's time because I was up at night. But this is actually the first trip. I've been getting really bad jet lag. I've been going to bed at like 7 and waking up at like 1 a.m. The last 2 days. But it's okay. You make it work. But usually I get jet lag when I go home back to the States. But now that I'm not working as many night shoots, I'm a bit more of a normal person now. So I'm experiencing a little bit of jet lag. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So you said you love stories. So if you could write a script for any movie, what would it be about?
If I could write a story,
Yeah.
if I could be a writer, I would love to really dive into more about mental illness. And I think a lot of the mental illness stereotypes right now, especially with something like schizophrenia, it's always depicted as evil and violent. And the reality is the percentage of people that, oh gosh, what was that James McAvoy movie recently? Split, yeah. Split was an incredible movie as far as his acting goes, but the amount of people with multiple personality disorder that are actually violent is very small. So I would like to see like a movie that realistically portrays mental illness. That would be my script I would make if I could write. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's not quite as dramatic as Split was, you know. It's much more real. It's much more nuanced, and I don't think there's a lot of movies that capture that.
My question is, which season of Teen Wolf is your favorite?
Oh, my favorite, I really like 2, just because personally, like, I don't know if other actors have this. I've seen some actors tell these stories, but I don't know if the majority do. When you watch a scene or you see an episode or a season, you know, you think more about what was going on in your life. So like when you think about a certain grade in school you were in, a certain level, you don't, you know, you might think about what you learned in that level, but you really think about who your friends were, you know, what your parents were going through, what trips you went on that year. You know, it was more about your life, right? So it's the same thing with acting is like when I think of a season, I think about what was actually happening in my life at that time. And season 2 was just so much fun. I have so many memories of Crystal, Colton, and I, Allison and Jackson and I, just running around Atlanta, Georgia. We were kind of on this like permanent vacation from Los Angeles, and it was just a really special time in our lives as a cast. And so many funny memories of Dylan and Hecklin and Tyler Posey, and yeah, it was a very special time in our lives. So season 2 for my personal favorite for my life, but on screen I would say, oh gosh, that's really tough. I liked 5 personally for Lydia's character, for being in the mental institution, and having like warrior banshee Lydia come out and like fighting Lydia. I love that. It was really fun with the stunts, the fighting scenes. And then probably all in all, season 3, just for plot line for everybody's characters.
My another question is if you like to come to Poland again or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only in Warsaw this trip, so I would love to come back and visit other cities, as well as Warsaw again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I love you so much, and I asked. Everyone asked you what is the favorite, the best memories of Teen Wolf, and I asked what's the worst memories of Teen Wolf, and which scene was difficult to play for you.
Yeah, I think same as yesterday. Was it just like the cold scenes, like when you're just naked and it's raining and it's like I'm trying to think like in Celsius. I mean, probably like -12 outside. It was like, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, you're just so cold that you can't even breathe. And you're working like, at least in that condition, for like 12 hours, 10 hours, and then your whole day is like 16 to 18 hours. So I don't know if it's a rumor or not, but I heard the crews, different like cameramen or gaffers will come in, audio guys will say, the rumor was when Teen Wolf was filming that we were like one of the hardest shows on television to shoot, that we had the longest hours, kind of the harshest conditions. It was us and True Blood that had the hardest hours, and we had less money, so it was kind of harder on us. Our show had a smaller budget, so yeah, I would say those were the toughest days. It's just when you're so tired and you're so cold. And I even like cold weather, so I just don't like it naked and it pouring down rain. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
And which actor from Teen Wolf you had the best time in the real life?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's different people for different reasons, I mean, Hecklin and I have known each other way before the show started. Tyler Hecklin and I. We knew each other because our best friends dated each other for like almost 3 years. So I knew him when I was almost before I started acting. Like the year I started acting, I met Hecklin. No, actually, I think it was before I started acting actually that I met Hecklin. So Hecklin and I have known each other for so long. Ryan Kelly, Parrish, we knew so Hecklin, Ryan Kelly, and myself, we all knew each other. And we even called him Hecklin back then, before there was 2 Tylers. So it was very funny. But yeah, I mean, I knew them. Colton's one of my best friends. Crystal, Tyler and Dylan are very close. Like, it's just, Ian is my neighbor. We used to put each other on tape for auditions all the time. Just different people for different reasons. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is, what kind of film is your favorite?
Mogę prosić troszkę głośniej?
My question is, which kind of film you prefer? What's your favorite?
Which kind of film I would like to shoot?
Watch.
Yes. I usually like very sad dramas. I'm like a Debbie Downer. So yeah, I like sad films, and you
Why?
like Polish films.
Yeah, but why?
I don't know why. I think there's something very human about them. I think sometimes comedy can be incredibly honest, the most honest, but a good drama, if it's done well, is incredibly honest, and so I love that. I also love like really dark comedies, but to me it's kind of the same intimacy of a dark comedy, like an honest dark comedy, and a really well done drama. It kind of has the same tone to it in a weird way.
So if I ask you, for example, for your favorite drama movie?
That's tough. My favorite movie is Harold and Maude, but again, it's a comedy, but it's like a dark comedy. It's a movie from the 70s. It's really good. I highly suggest you guys watch it. It's called Harold and Maude. But the other, I'm trying to think recently, I loved As Good as It Gets.
Oh yeah.
And About Schmidt. I like that movie.
And something
With Jack
recently
Nicholson.
that moved you?
Clockwork, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Clockwork Orange.
I see you like plastics.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I like Revolutionary Road. That was a movie that wasn't really, not people liked that a lot. The Constant Gardener, that's a great movie. Out of Africa.
And something from recent years that touched you?
Yeah, what was that? The Last King of Scotland. I loved that movie. I loved The Last King of Scotland. And then All the Children's Men. What's that one movie? Oh, I'm so bad with the names. Oh God, I forget that one about abortion. anyway, there's that movie that was good. I also love like anything with Jason Bateman. Like I just am obsessed with Jason Bateman. So there's a really good movie he directed called Bad Words. Love that movie. And I love, as the rest of the world does, Kate McKinnon.
All right.
So there's a movie called Office Christmas Party.
Yeah.
That is so funny. I love Jillian Bell too. I have friends that have done projects with her. Colton did a movie with her. Charlie Martinson did or Carver did a movie with her. She's probably one of the only people I've met and then actually became a fan of her work afterwards because I wasn't aware of her and she's hilarious. So, yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. Are there any questions?
Hi.
Hey, it's me again.
You changed your outfit since yesterday.
Yeah, I have to hit the road later, so. Okay, my question. What happened to Styles' Jeep after the show?
I don't know. I heard one rumor that Dylan has the Jeep, and I don't. That was part of the plan. Like I think Dylan was supposed to keep the Jeep, but then I think he thought because it takes a lot of maintenance. That Jeep is the most annoying thing in the world. We love it. It's a character on the show, but I call it the tuna can because it's like we were always filming in really cold environments, and you'd shut that Jeep, and it was like freezing inside that Jeep. There was no insulation at all. It was not warm. And then like it kept breaking all the time and like would just smell of gasoline throughout the Jeep. Like that thing was so annoying. And I really I give them a lot of credit for Tyler and Dylan because they had to spend so much more time in that Jeep than I did. I got it easy. I had it easy.
And how much tape is on the Jeep?
Pardon?
How much tape is on the Jeep?
A lot of tape is on that Jeep. I mean, we would just fix with more and more tape. It was kind of like a running joke off screen as you just fix it with tape. But, you know, we love the Jeep. It's like a character, like I said. So I think Dylan was going to keep the Jeep, but because it takes so much maintenance, it's so much money to maintain, and you really have to know what you're doing. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but I think he said it might be better if it's given to someone else that could take care of it, but, you know, in a better way than he could. So I don't know what happened to it. I should ask Jeff what happened to the Jeep, because I should know. Either it was like I heard it was going to like some kind of MTV museum, and then I heard Dylan was keeping it, and then I heard one of the transportation guys that worked on our Jeeps a lot, the people that drive the cars around set, that like if we have base camp, which is where our trailers are, if we're on location, you have people that drive you back and forth, and they drive the trailers around when you move locations. So there's a whole department called transportation, and they're mechanics too. They don't just know how to drive. I mean, they're really knowledgeable when it comes to cars. So a lot of times they were the ones fixing the Jeep. So there was also a rumor that one of those guys, they were going to keep the Jeep. So I don't know what happened to that Jeep. I got to find out.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
One more. Yeah.
Hi
One more?
again.
Okay.
Okay, so.
But make it a quick one, please.
Okay. Could you say, please, in kocham cię, which means I love you, or kocham was?
Kocham cię?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means I love you.
Kocham cię. How do you?
I love you too.
Kocham cię, kocham was.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Holland. For
Thank you,
everything.
guys. Thank you for watching the show all these years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Słuchajcie, teraz taka prośba, będzie wspólne zdjęcie z Holland, więc stańcie wszyscy. I teraz wszyscy machają, słuchajcie.